and this is something that hasn't been released yet, but I haven't got the video for it either, so I'm going to have to sum up the comments. I interviewed Tully Blanchard on the weekend, and he said something to me that I was very interested in discussing with you. So this is sort of a sneak peek of that interview. Tully told me that in his 2-year stint in AEW, because he was a manager and he even did one wrestling match, that not one person in AEW, not one worker, not one wrestler, not one performer, came up to him and asked him for advice. And, to make things worse, nobody has ever, while Tully was there for 2 years, ever went up to Arn Anderson and asked for his advice. What is going on? How could you... They're two of the greatest.
So they have two of the greatest working minds in the business, and they won't even go up and ask for help?
None of them. None of them have, apparently.
And were they ever told you need to ask these guys for help? Or they just won't do it?
I mean, if you had half a brain in your head, you would. It's like, hey, there's two of the four horsemen. Of course you go up to them. And I have it on good authority, say no names, that they're not the only two legends in AEW who have never been asked for their advice.
Who's the other two?
I'm not going to tell you. That's confidential for now.
You have to tell me.
I'll tell you afterwards.
Okay.
But yeah, both Tully and Arn are just baffled that no one's coming up to him, and then it's just picking up a check, and then
I got it.
Did that used to be the case back when you were a kid?
No. First of all, if you didn't say hello to the guy, you was a butthole. You'd have to go up and shake his hand, introduce yourself. But I hear now they don't even do that. See, if a guy's in the back and he's a name that you used to watch when you were a fan, and he's done some great stuff, you go up and say, my name is Dutch. I said, hello, I'm Dutch. I'm Dirty Dutch. And then the guy would shake my hand and he'll introduce himself. And I said, great to meet you. And so at least I introduce myself to the guy as a form or a measure of respect. And if I wanted something from him, I would say, can I ask you something? And of course, they'll say, sure, whatever. And you ask them, how would you do this finish? And this is in the match, and have the guy, whether you use it or not, go ahead and let them know that you've considered their finish. And sometimes it's in there, and sometimes you go with something else. But that shows your respect, and it shows if a guy's been in the business for 3 years, it shows the respect for 30 years that they've dedicated to this business. And you're trying to say, hey, what do you think about this? And go from there.
When did this start changing? Because, I mean, you know, you from WWF and WWE and Memphis and everything, but you did a lot of indies as well in the 90s and 2000s and 2010s, or early 2010s at least. When did
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know when it's stopped being like that. I don't know why, but I've never done it, and I've had people that didn't come up to me, but I didn't think anything about it. But if you're not going to do it, I mean, you can't be forced to do it. A talent can't be forced to go up to an old timer and shake their hand, but it is a measure of respect. Thank you very much for what you've done to the business. And can I ask you something? And whether you use it or not, are you asking for his logic on the wrestling business, and what was your best logic anybody ever gave you? Then you're engaging them in conversation, which makes you get a lot of good answers if you do it like that. But I've seen guys sit in the same dressing room for 6 hours and not ever meet the guy sitting right over across from them. Now, tell me wherever that came in. I don't know.
In a future episode of the Franchise University with Shane Douglas that you can find on all podcasts and Shane Douglas.
What does Shane say about it?
Well, this is exactly what I'm going to say. Someone wrote in with a question and said, has AEW or Impact or WWE ever come towards you, made an overture to... sorry, someone's just ringing me then. Basically be a producer or agent or something in that vein, and he said no, none of them have, and especially with AEW, he feels even if someone did ask for advice, the business has changed so much since when he learned and since when you learned, that even if I gave them the best advice, it wouldn't translate to today's wrestlers, because they pre-plan everything, they don't react to the crowd, like a stand-up comedian kind of thing. If the A material's not working, hit them with the B material, that kind of thing. And just advice of the old-timers back in the day isn't even relevant to wrestlers today, because just the business has changed that much.
It's a shame to see it in the condition it's in today. Now, AEW, they have a pretty good TV show. But if you're talking about their just rank and file talent, they have no way to learn it, because you're having people teach them that don't even understand it themselves. I may be wrong on that. I don't want to say anything out of school about that, but it looks like to me that they're seeking advice. But you can get advice, seeking advice, but yet not even trying that advice out. See, they want every match to be like a 10. Some matches are not going to be 10s. Some matches, the most you're going to get out of there is like a 6. So don't hurt yourself by trying to get a 6. Because that's all you're going to get anyway. But they need to go to school every day to learn this. And if he's going to have a wrestling school, I think they have to go almost every day. And if they're working, well, they got to show up at 5 o'clock or for an hour and a half session, because then they're learning the business, learning how it's done. And not only are you learning how it's done, you're learning the political side of the business as well. So we'll see. We'll see where it leads.